Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Lehman, and I'm wearing two hats this morning. First, I'm wearing the hat of Vice Chancellor of NYU Shanghai. In that role, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our university. NYU Shanghai is delighted to be partnering with Peking University's National School of Development to host this morning's forum. Our university is now in its 7th year of teaching as the first Sino-American joint university. We are an experimental university created to promote academic research across all academic fields, as well as to nurture an approach to teaching that prepares an international community of students to lead lives as creative and cosmopolitan leaders in an interdependent world. As part of that mission, we host a steady stream of international academic conferences on a wide range of topics of scholarly research. We believe that all of humanity benefits from this kind of multinational intellectual engagement as we push to promote ever deeper understanding of complex problems from as many perspectives as possible. The current trade tensions between China and the United States are just such a complex problem. Second, I am wearing the hat of a professor of law and public policy who is one of the 3 co-conveners of the U.S.-China Trade Policy Working Group, together with Dean Yao Yang of the Peking University National School of Development and Professor Danny Roderick of the Harvard University Kennedy School. In that role, I will, along with Yang and Danny, be one member of the first panel this morning. My colleagues have asked me to say a few words about our working group and its proposal entitled A Way Forward. Everyone in this room should have found a purple bag on your seat. In that bag, there is a blue document that looks like this. This blue document contains A Way Forward, the proposal that is, as of this moment, officially released to the public and available to be read online. This summer, Dean Yao, Professor Roderick, and I discovered that we share a deep concern that the trade conflict between the U.S. and China is escalating in ways that are hurting people in both countries. We were especially troubled by suggestions that because China is not converging to resemble a Western-style market economy, our two countries have no choice but to fully decouple from each other. We believed that intermediate paths exist between full convergence and full decoupling, and a framework could be developed to help diplomats pursue such a path. So in July, the 3 of us convened the working group of distinguished economists and legal scholars that is listed on pages 8 to 11 of this booklet. In August, our working group met on the NYU campus in New York and discussed how to craft the way forward. In September, we wrote up our proposal, which is found on pages 1 through 7. During the past month, we circulated our proposal to some of the world's most prominent experts in the fields of economics and international trade. To our enormous gratification, 27 of those experts, listed on pages 12 to 14, have joined the 10 members of our working group to make a total of 37 signatories on this proposal. These signatories include 5 Nobel Prize-winning economists and 3 former chief economists of the World Bank. This morning's forum will feature 2 panels. In the first panel, Dean Yao, Professor Roderick, and I will speak about the content of A Way Forward, In the second panel, 3 more members of our working group will be joined by a prominent signatory and by the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai. Before we move to the first panel, however, I would like to turn the podium over to my friend Yao Yang, who will be speaking with his hat as Dean of the Peking University National School of Development.
Thank you, Professor Lehman. It's my great pleasure to come over here to it's going to under the heart of the Dean of the National School of Development to co-organize this morning's forum. So Professor Lehman just gave a introduction to the background of our work. So here I'm going to just say a few words about the National School of Development. National School of Development used to be named CCER, China Center for Economic Research. It was founded in 1994 by 6 economists who returned from overseas. And then in 2008, we changed the name to National School of Development. We are a school within Peking University, so our primary job is to teach students and also to do research. Actually, we do a lot of teaching. I have counted, we offer 9 academic degrees to our students. In addition to our regular undergraduate, master, and PhD students, we also have a MBA program called BIMBA. We also host the Institute for South-South Cooperation and Development, which train government officials from southern countries, in addition to officials from within China. Actually, that's the only institute that can still recruit government officials from within China to do a degree program, right? But in addition to all the teachings and the research, we are a think tank in China. We have been consistently ranked among the top 5 in China. Of course, the other 4 are all so-called national think tanks, right? So, but we are a think tank in university, so we do independent work and also policy advising to the governments. Of course, U.S.-China relations are one of the most important topics for think tank research. And we, over the last 10 years, we have been running a U.S.-China second track economic dialogue. So we do this twice a year. So this time, I feel really fortunate to work with Professor Lehman and also Professor Roderick to start this working group. And here I would like to thank them and also the members of the working group and also those signatories who put their name on the joint statement. And I hope this forum can begin a fruitful dialogue between our 2 great countries. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm really delighted to be here and joining Yao Yang and Jeff Lehman in this enterprise. I was delighted when early last summer I was approached by Jeff about the idea for this project. As Jeff mentioned, we had all been thinking in our corners about, as Jeff mentioned, as we say on the cover, a way forward on U.S.-China trade relations, and this was an opportunity for us to get together with the benefit of a very distinguished group of legal scholars and trade economists and other types of economists to think about how two countries with very different economic systems and different value systems could nonetheless beneficially trade with each other, and what kind of framework would establish the ground rules for such trade, because I think we share the view that in many ways the existing set of rules embodied in the World Trade Organization, as important as they are in terms of establishing certain multilateral ground rules, are also insufficient or inadequate in some other respects. The last time I was in China actually was some months ago, when the occasion was to celebrate 40 years of economic reform in China, and to draw the lessons from that. We're all very keenly aware of the fruits of that economic reform and the tremendous economic benefits that has generated for China and also for the rest of the world. But I think it's fair to say that that has also come at the expense of a number of tensions, the most severe of which are being felt today in the world of trade. The WTO was formed on the expectation that many of the differences that exist in economic systems between the US and China would effectively dissipate. There was a kind of an implicit understanding that China would come to look more and more like a Western-style market economy, whatever that means. But that has not happened, and in fact, one of the lessons, I think, of 40 years of Chinese economic reform is that China has done very well, thank you very much, by following its own guidelines and its own ideas about how to combine the market with the state. It has a very distinctive kind of economic regime with distinctive industrial policies. And I've long felt that it's not really for the rest of the world to tell China how to run their economic systems, especially in light of the significant benefits that regime, that mixed economy has produced. So I think the expectations that such economic convergence would take place have not been realized. It's also the case that other expectations have not been realized. I think on the US part, the costs that the very rapid expansion of Chinese exports into the United States would impose on many communities in the US that faced that import competition. I think those costs were not adequately expected. There are some academic studies, quite respectable, that actually suggest that if the Chinese exports to the US had not increased as rapidly, that we would have had Hillary Clinton in the White House today rather than Donald Trump, and that presidential election was significantly affected by the adverse effect of trade in many communities, although, of course, there were at least as many that also benefited. As the Chinese economy has increased, there is also a much greater geopolitical competition and also a competition in terms of differences in value systems and differences, especially in the United States and the West, concerns about some concerns about human rights issues. So I think the conversation today, and that's what we wanted to counter, was that we're being forced into one of two corners. The two corners that Jeff mentioned, either convergence, either China would converge to a Western-style market economy, would provide market access to U.S. investors and firms on the basis of expectations that were established at the time of the China's joining in the WTO. Or there would be a severe decoupling, a sharp decoupling. And of course, on that camp, we had both protectionist and national security hawks in the United States with an alliance. Our alternative, our proposal, in fact, is to try to steer a middle ground. So our way forward is to say that we can reap much of the benefits of trade with more of a regime of peaceful economic coexistence, if you will, rather than either sharp decoupling or significant economic convergence. We believe that both countries, as indeed other countries in the world, need a certain amount of policy space. That is to say that China needs its autonomy to be able to conduct its growth policies and industrial policies in the way that it sees fit. But by the same token, we were keen to articulate principles that would allow the United States to engage in trade policies that are consistent with its own values. And that policy space would satisfy both countries. As you read our proposals, you'll see that it's actually in some ways it's fairly detailed. It lays out a process. We identify 4 different buckets of policies. The first is what we call the prohibited set of policies, and these are largely what an economist would call beggar thy neighbor policies. That is to say, policies that a country pursues and hopes to benefit from, but that these benefits come purely through the costs that are imposed on other countries. So these would be examples of such policies would be trying to reap monopoly profits on world markets, or trying to reap the benefits of predatory pricing or rent extraction. These are policies from which a country benefits at the expense of others. And we drew clear red lines around these sets of policies by saying this should be clearly prohibited because not only they distort trade, they are negative sum, and the benefits that a country accrues comes at the expense of costs that others incur. But there are many other policies that might create spillovers or might create adverse effects on another country, but that the objective of those policies are actually not to create those costs. When China pursues industrial policies, this might have some adverse effects on American firms, but that's an incidental effect of China's own growth policies, and that we also ought to have certain framework for discussion of those rules. We said these are not necessarily beggar thy neighbor policies, or should not therefore necessarily be proscribed, but we propose a procedure for negotiations in those areas where, if there are mutually acceptable bargains, such policies could also be scaled back or regulated, but failing that, countries would reserve the right to engage in their own trade policies to safeguard any spillovers that they might, or protect themselves against the spillovers of such policies. We are keen on having a set of policies that essentially enables countries to pursue their own economic models, their own social models, to pursue trade policies that would protect those models, but not trade policies that you could hit other countries on the head with to tell them to change those models. So the purpose of this enlarged space for policy autonomy would be to safeguard your own system, not to try the other country's system in the direction of your own. In terms of the language of negotiations, this would significantly de-emphasize the role of market access, would highlight the role of managing the cost and benefits of cross-border spillovers. As in every international framework, the question always arises, who would actually enforce such a kind of framework? In international diplomacy, there's never really enforcer. There is never a third party that can sort of enforce this. It always relies on building mutual trust, on cooperation in the benefit of reaping future benefits. So what we hope we have provided is a kind of a conceptual vocabulary, a language, a way of framing the relationship through which such trust can be developed around a new kind of narrative, a new framework for how these trade relationships should be viewed. We were very happy with the extent of support we had from both the Chinese and the American academic communities, and as you see the list of signatories, you'll see that we have very good support, and we hope that this will be one way that we can push this relationship in a positive way in the direction in the future. If not under the current administration in the U.S., perhaps under a future administration in the U.S. Thank you.
So Professor Roderick has summarized the main contents of our statement. Here I just want to speak more from a Chinese perspective. As Professor Roderick just pointed out, our group want to propose a third way to resolving the U.S.-China trade disputes, right? So the two extremes are, one, convergence, that is China converges to American-style market economy, and the other extreme is that the two countries completely decouple with each other, right? But we want to say that there exists a middle ground, right? So in that case, that China is going to keep some of its own key features of the economic system, and in the meantime, our two countries still come together with trade and also investment, right? So let me then say a few more about why China should keep some of the features of its own economic systems, right? The first one is China is still in development. China's per capita income is only 1/4 of the American level by purchasing power parity, right? Per capita income-wise, China is only ranked about 70 to 80 in the whole world, right? So we're still developing, right? We still need government coordination in economic development, right? There are many economic theories telling us why we need government coordinations, like infant industry theory, positive externality theory also say about this, right? And I'm a development economist, and I understand in the stage of economic development, the government can play a positive role in coordinating different economic agencies and concentrate resources in some key areas, right? So that's one of the reasons why China should be allowed to conduct its own industrial policy. The other reason is that China is still a transition economy, right? Although we have been doing reform in the last 40 years, but you can still see a lot of features of economic planning in the Chinese economy. Of course, our objective is still to reform the Chinese economy to adopt the most efficient economic system in the world. But that is going to take time. Right? Think about the last 40 years, why China has done a better job than other transition countries is actually because China has adopted more a gradual approach to economic reform, right? China didn't adopt this big bang approach. That's why China can keep growing its economy, but in the meantime, reform its economic system. That's going to take still some time for China to finish all the reforms. And we should allow China more time to do that. Right? So that's why I believe China should have some room to do that. By doing this joint statement, I can see in China and also in the United States, we still have people who support such a middle ground, right? Many people say, oh, United States has a grand strategy to contain China. I think this effort shows that the mainstream thinking in the United States is still to work with China and to find a common ground for the two countries to work together. Right? If you read carefully the agreement, of course the details of the agreement has not been announced, but if you read it, you have a sense from this last round of talks between US and China. This agreement is just a kind of a stage agreement, right? Pretty much in line with our proposal. That is, you tacked the most important issues first, cross-border issues first, to get rid of the issues in our first bucket, right? So then you leave other issues in the future. So the US and China will keep talking and keep negotiating. And if we cannot agree with each other, then both countries have the rights to take safeguarding measures. Right? So that's the first thing I want to talk about. The second is that point I want to talk about is China's attitude toward the outside world. There's no doubt about it that China has been the only, not the only country, the country that has benefited the most from last round of globalization, right? No country can match China's achievements in the last 40 years. But we can do that only because the world community has worked on China to join the world community, particularly the United States, right? But in the last 40, 30 years, China has been a follower in the world system, right? So first we worked with the United States. The United States gave China MFN status, most favored nation status. And later on, we negotiated with the United States to join WTO. Then in 2001, we joined the WTO. Everyone can have a sense that China's wealth, most of the wealth, has been accumulated since China joined the WTO. Right? So China has every reason to preserve and safeguard this system, among which WTO is one of the most important pillars to support this system. But China should be also aware of the shocks that China's rise has put on the world. Not just the United States, but also developing countries, right? China is not a small country today in terms of the size of the economy or the influence in the whole world. So China needs to change its international paradigm. Right? We are no longer a follower. Now we have to be a rule maker. I mean, common sense tells us that if you are just a follower, you don't need to care about other people, right? You just work in the system trying to get benefits as much as possible, right? But as a rule maker or in your company as a leader, when you decide the matters within your company, then you have to be sensitive to other people, right? And also you have to make rules that's going to advance the benefits and the growth prospects of the whole company, not just your own department or that kind of stuff, right? So in this case, I think China needs to be sensitive to the shocks that United States has received in the last round of globalization. United States is a very rich country, very advanced country, but it's also a huge country, right? It's huge, okay? There's a huge diversity in the United States, right? So there are also poor people, even by the standards of first-tier Chinese cities, okay? And they need time for adjustments, and I believe China should pay more attention to that, right? So I think with that, I want to stop here, but those are the 2 points I want to convey to the audience. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back with my second hat now. So before moving into the world of academic leadership, I was a professor of American law and public policy. And I've long been a student of the way that the United States government makes policy. In 2011 and 2012, it was my honor to be a member of the American delegation to the U.S.-China Legal Experts Dialogue. And during the past 2 years, it has been my honor to join the American Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai, which sends a delegation to Washington each year to speak with American policymakers about the damage that the trade war is causing. So during our conversations with these policymakers, our delegation was advised that there are 7 key areas where the United States government seeks progress if decoupling is to be avoided. 6 of those areas struck me as ones where progress is in fact extremely likely through the negotiations that are going on between the 2 countries. But the 7th area strikes me as extremely difficult. That 7th area, which you can find online, is entitled "The Need to Address Market Distorting Forces, including subsidies and state-owned enterprises that lead to excess capacity." The problem, in my mind, is not that the U.S. government is concerned about the spillover impact of China's industrial policy, something that both Danny and Yang have already mentioned, that is reflected in subsidies and the scale of state-owned enterprises. The problem is not that the U.S. government is concerned that these industrial policies could lead to excess capacity that damages participants in the global economy outside China. The problem, rather, lies in a suggestion that if China does not dramatically modify its industrial policy by shrinking its state-owned enterprises, the best thing for America would be to protect its economy from damage by decoupling through massive across-the-board tariffs. So our proposal, A Way Forward, presents what Danny has called an analytical framework, a vocabulary that negotiators between the 2 countries might use to work together to allow China to make its own choices about the kind of industrial policy it will adopt, and also to allow America to be protected against being harmed by those choices without taking the radical approach of high tariffs applied to as much as $500 billion worth of imports. Under our approach, the U.S. would identify which subsidized products of SOEs are distorting global markets, and using what we call bucket number 2, work with China to negotiate an approach to eliminate that distortion. If the negotiation should fail, the goods would then move to bucket 3, and the U.S. would be able to impose what is called a countervailing duty, a special kind of tariff that is calibrated to eliminate the damaging distortion of prices, but is not designed to punish or retaliate. Trade in other goods and services between the two countries would continue unaffected, allowing consumers and producers and workers in both countries to enjoy the benefits that David Ricardo identified 200 years ago as coming from trade according to principles of comparative advantage. Now, when I describe this approach to others, I am sometimes asked 2 questions that I thought I should respond to right away. The first question I'm asked is, doesn't your approach give up on the WTO by substituting bilateral conversations between the two countries for the WTO's dispute resolution system? So in response, I would say 2 things. First, in my opinion, the two countries already moved outside the WTO framework this summer when the list of goods subject to tariffs by the United States went from $50 billion to $250 billion. The use of the bucket system in a way forward can be seen as a path back into the WTO system by ensuring that the focus of discussions is on traditional WTO norms of fair competition rather than on things like bilateral trade deficits. Second, the particular focus on carefully calibrated remedies under bucket 3, the carefully calibrated countervailing duties, is fully consistent with the WTO system and with the protocols by which China joined the WTO back in 2001. The second question I'm sometimes asked is, you're an American. Doesn't this approach favor China at the expense of the United States by allowing China to continue to deploy an industrial policy that uses huge state-owned enterprises to pursue national objectives? In response to that, I would say absolutely not. The issue for us Americans is, as Danny indicated, not whether China does or does not use state-owned enterprises to direct the development of its domestic economy. That, of course, is up to China. The issue for Americans is whether the particular way that China is using state-owned enterprises creates excess capacity in global markets, distorts global prices, and thereby hurts American workers and American businesses. Our proposal would keep the two countries focused on that issue, encouraging them to work together to eliminate such harms. And if they're not able to do so, it explicitly recognizes the legitimacy of the United States government imposing countervailing duties in order to eliminate those harms. At the same time, it works to protect Americans from the additional damage that radical decoupling would bring about. The fact that the proposal is fair to both China and the United States is confirmed by the number of exceptionally distinguished American economists who have signed it. In a way forward, we are not trying to set forth the final destination for trade discussions. We describe a way of thinking and speaking about these issues that people from both countries can embrace, a way that endorses the value of healthy and fair competition, that allows people around the world to enjoy the benefits of efficient and equitable resource allocation, high-quality products, and low prices, a way that also promotes the value of cosmopolitan cooperation. Here at NYU Shanghai, we see the kind of creative learning that happens when people from different cultures engage with one another. the kind of creative learning that would be lost if our countries were to decouple, the kind of creative learning that I think we should be doing our best to preserve. Thank you very much. So this brings to a close the first panel. I'd like to thank my colleagues, and I'd like to invite the second panelists to come up. Dean Yao, I think you will introduce them.
So we are not going to have a break because we have a fully packed audience. So we're going to go straight forward to our second panel. We are going to have 5 speakers. One, Meredith Crowley, who is a reader in international economics from University of Cambridge, and I'm very proud we are alumni from University of Wisconsin. Go Badger! The second speaker is Professor Ju Jiandong, is from Tsinghua University, the PBC School of Finance. He's an expert on international economics. And Professor Lu Feng, my colleague from NSD, also expert on macroeconomics and international economics. And then Professor Tu Xinquan, who's Dean of China Institute for WTO Studies in University of International Business and Economics. And he's one of the experts on WTO issues in China. Last but not least, Mr. Kirk Gibbers, who is the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai. I just learned actually AmCham Shanghai is much larger than AmCham China. So please, 5 panelists. So we have the clock here, so each one you have to press it, then you manage your time by yourself, 10 minutes each.
Okay, so thank you everyone for coming out today, and as an American it's very heartening to see so many Chinese coming here on a Sunday in their own time to think about how we can improve the relationship between our two countries. And so in my remarks today, I want to talk about the importance of placing the US and Chinese relationship in the context of the larger multilateral system. And so in my opinion, the way forward proposed today offers the greatest potential benefit to both countries if we can place this bilateral negotiating framework within the context of the larger framework of multilateral norms and rules under the WTO system. And so I want to highlight what I see as 3 important challenges to the US-China relationship today and ways in which this framework offers some hope for the future. And so specifically, the first challenge to the US-China relationship I see is, from the US perspective, there's an asymmetry in the border trade policy commitments made by the United States and China at the World Trade Organization. And specifically, the United States is a very open country to trade. The consequence of this openness, unfortunately, has led to costs and benefits that are unevenly distributed within American society. So while openness to trade has created huge benefits for some groups of American society, unfortunately, there have been costs imposed on other groups, and these costs are concentrated geographically. Now, the second challenge we have in thinking about how to improve this relationship going forward is that when we think about markets for different products and services, the extent to which a market is globally integrated varies considerably across different product and service markets according to the international conditions of supply and demand. What this means in practice, importantly, is that any type of bilaterally negotiated solution between the United States and China will invariably have spillover consequences to other important third country markets around the world. And so with this in mind, it's very important that if this way forward is going to deliver a sustainable solution to improving the relationship between the United States and China, it's necessary for there to be a formal process by which other major economies, both, which trade with both the United States and China, have a route into this negotiation to express their concerns. And so what I see as potentially a very positive way to address this is that this process in establishing a fourth bucket of policies that have multilateral spillovers to third countries, this process should establish a formal route for third countries to express their interest in participating in negotiations so that a solution that's achieved through a U.S. and China negotiation could also take into consideration the impact of any type of negotiation on third countries and lead to something that can really address global multilateral spillovers of any policy. And then thirdly, I would say that the WTO framework of rules and institutions has been very effective at facilitating trade. But in some areas, the rules governing trade have become outdated or no longer fit for purpose. And we see this very importantly in the area of industrial policy. So over time, WTO rules and the jurisprudence that have followed from WTO rules are in some contexts too lax to address the concerns of a country. And in other areas, they're too restrictive and they don't give countries enough discretion over their own domestic policy. And so in this sense, the way forward proposes an opportunity to open up discussion in areas where WTO rules are no longer satisfying the needs of both countries. And specifically, it allows them to initiate negotiation in areas that are quite difficult to satisfy without being constrained by the existing rules of the WTO. So there's potential here for the two countries to come together and start out with expressing their own concerns about specific policies, their own needs for domestic discretion over policy, and to then work together to come up with a coordinated solution that can then be shared with other members of the WTO and perhaps introduced into global trading rules through additional agreements, either multilaterally or plurilaterally. And so in wrapping up, I want to emphasize that the problem here is that, in some sense, the U.S. and China's negotiations under the WTO have been somewhat stuck under the umbrella of the rules of the WTO. And what we have here in establishing four buckets over which policy can be negotiated and debated, we're giving new room for the two sides to each express the concerns they have with existing policy and to be a bit more creative going forward in how they can address these problems. But again, I want to emphasize that it's very important that in order to have a solution that's sustainable, having a solution to many problems that just addresses the U.S. and China won't be enough. Because if any solution improves the relationship between the U.S. and China, but causes adverse impacts on the U.S. or China's relationship with Japan or the European Union, it won't really be a sustainable solution. And so that's the reason why in some product and service markets, it's very important that relying on the fourth bucket and acknowledging the market has multilateral spillovers, we integrate the opinion and the concerns of other major economies so that the solution that comes out can be sustainable in the long run and improve the welfare of people in both countries. So I'll finish there. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my great pleasure to be here, this NYU Shanghai, and so I feel very happy to work with my distinguished fellows and work together to look forward for the U.S.-China trade relations. So what is solution for this trap? We know that the U.S. and China is trapped into this so-called either convergence or fully decoupling. So my label on this is so-called competitive coexistence. I'm so happy today to be here. I think this is the NYU Shanghai. It's a very right place for us to discuss this U.S.-China relations. This university is a product of U.S. and China trade. It's like a successful label for the past 40 years U.S. and China good relations. So now today, thank you. Today we stand on the crossroad point. It's a historical point. Where do we go? So first, people call convergence. So in my mind, the convergence doesn't work. Let me explain why. The convergence basically say we will converge to a market style, the market type. The capital will play a determinist role. We all know from the data, actually, now we need a government and capital to balance each other. The capital playing a determinist role bring us a lot of troubles so far. We can understand income inequality, and that's actually bring us a lot of troubles in developed countries, in states, in the Europeans. Certainly, we do not want a planned economy. And so, however, for this institution, from the very right to very left, it's a spectrum. So we need a balance. We need to balance each other. We need both governments and capital play determinist role to have a healthy mechanism for the market mechanism. So that's the kind of things I think we need institutional diversity and to allow different countries to try to compete, to find this a better way to solve these globalization problems and domestic problems. So that's the one thing I'm looking at. Another way, this quick decoupling doesn't work neither. We know the world is connected by global value chain. So this decoupling also causes a lot of problems. So the middle ground I call this competitive coexistence. To my view, the key issues for US and China trade relation is world order. What is future of the world order? The existing theory suggests the world order needs a superpower. We call hegemony. If we still believe that kind of thinking, then certainly US and China would compete for this superpower. And US-China would become enemies of each other. However, if we go out of this kind of a thinking, if we think the world can coexist together, and even through competitions, and then US-China can become the partners of each other. So then the problems become how actually I think these people arrested this issue. How can this competitive coexistence become real? It's practical. To me, I think it is real. I call this a structural. Let me explain why it is structural. in US and China relations, they are beneficial sectors, they are competing sectors, they are confrontation sectors. Let me give you examples. These beneficial sectors like these agricultural products, and US has a comparative advantage in these agricultural products, in energy products, and China certainly has a comparative advantage in, let's say, textile. Both countries are so happy to trade each other. Actually, US and China, US have pushed so hard to sell the agricultural products, soybeans, to China, to sell these energies to China. So enhancing these beneficial sectors, comparative advantage sectors, will benefit both China and the US, irrespective whether US or China and competing for other things. So that's the beneficial sectors. And also there are competing sectors. Let's say non-military technology. US and China are competing. Let's say iPhones, chips, right? But competing for what? Competing to produce better products. Through competitions, producing better products will benefit the US and benefit China, and some students' the rest of the questions also benefited to the rest of the world. And then certainly we have confrontation sectors like military technology. So US-China and relations are structural, which means you cannot just focusing on confrontation sectors. Say US-China relations is a confrontation. And also you cannot say US and China are just compared to advantage beneficial sectors. It's more complicated than that, right? So it's a structure. Let me go away from US and China, and then the world is also structured. US GDP is a world share of 24%, China is 16%. Together, it's only 40%. They are still 60% of the rest of the world. Even if US and China want to go to confrontations, countries like Singapore, like the European countries, do not want to get involved in the conflicts between US and China. So the world is also structural. From these two lines, now US and China the relationship are structured, and the world is also structured. I would think this competitive coexistence are actually in practical and real. So I suggest there are four buckets. The first bucket, these beneficial sectors, US and China should always enhance more open trade. For these competing sectors, US and China should always do the policies, help produce better products. For these bilateral confrontation sectors, unfortunately, but let it be symmetric. Whatever US do, allow Chinese to do the same thing. Both US and China should constrain themselves, not extend these bilateral confrontations to multilateral confrontations, not request third countries to stand on the side, not request these bilateral confrontations to go to these global confrontations just like former Soviet Union and US did before. So if we go to these four policy buckets, particularly expanding these beneficial sectors, prohibiting these multilateral confrontations, then I think these competitive coexistence are real. That's basically my suggestion. And let me give you a story. I think this morning I come to discuss this competitive coexistence. I have a story about it. A family stories. A family, husband and a wife. and the wife is working in the Pentagon. And the husband is working in the American Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai. This wife and this husband quarrel, argue each other, not because of U.S.-China relations, because housework, how to take care of kids, who should spend more time on working and in the family. They argue each other, and their relation become kind of at the cross point. So, how to maintain this family? How to have this family to become a happy family? The key is mother-in-law. This mother-in-law, this wife asks mother-in-law, say, you need to help me. You need to stay on my side, right? But the mother-in-law works in EU, European Union. So mother-in-law says, well, look, for the family happiness, you two should work each other and then to find a way, but I would stand outside. I will be a judge, see whatever, so you guys find a way to find a solution. And the husband call the father. Father probably is living in Japan. They also say, well, look, I should let you two solve the problems. We will not get involved in your conflicts. So the happy end, this family will, the husband and wife, and solve the problems, and they become a happy family again. So you see my stories, whether the happy family, whether these quarrels, these arguments between husband and wives, we know we all have this kind of experiences. And the family has difference and disagreements, husband and wife, and have disagreements. The crucial rule is mother-in-law, the third party. Whether the mother-in-law push the family go to divorce, and whether the mother-in-law actually united the family together. However, if the mother-in-law push this family go to the divorce, then who should suffer most? It's the children. It's a daughter and a son. So for our daughter and son, the mother-in-law, the husband and the wife, should solve their problem together for our next generations. Let me give you the history. From 1870 to 1914, France and Germany fought for the dominance in Europe. But during this period, this fight, this conflict between France and Germany, it's minor. And then after 1914, the third party, Britain, decided they changed their independent policy, but decided to join together with France and Russia. Then, after that, the World War I began. So let me conclude here and to thank you very much.
好，谢谢啊。那个刚才在开会之前呢，我们这个工作组啊，按照刚才这个雷蒙校长讲的，是一个中美这个合作的一个专家的一个工作组啊，就讨论呢，这个工作语言呢也应该体现是双方呢两个国家的学者一起做的，说谁愿意说中文，然后我说我自愿报名，愿意说中文啊，所以我这样呢用中文来讲我的10分钟发言啊。那么今天的这个题目的关键词呢是这个英文叫 way forward， 那就是出路在哪。在通常的情况下呢，没有什么出路的问题啊。刚才就是建东教授讲，中美关系如果比作一个 marriage 一个婚姻的话，如果这个日子过得很平顺的话，不存在一个出路的问题。那我们知道这个背景就是因为在过去的将近2年中中美的关系出现了非常负面的一些变化。我们知道呢，中美的这个2个最大的国家最高级的这个经贸谈判已经谈了13次了， 13字可能刚刚有可能达成第一阶段的某种协议。我们双边的这个关税措施，单边的关税措施加在一块，已经超过了3000亿美元。这个在中美历史上，甚至可以说在当代的这个国际经贸的历史上，都是前所未有的。所以在这个背景下，我们确实需要有一些新的思路所以这一次会呢，我想是这个背景下召开的。那我们进一步要问的话，为什么这个挺好的一个关系也有非常大的成就的这个关系，就突然出现了这么多的问题呢？对这个原因的问题，我想在过去的1年多这个国内外的学者有大量的讨论。我个人的理解呢，简而言之应该是2方面的基本问题第一方面的问题呢，我想呢，就是中国在新世纪初年有了一个超高速的超预期的这样一个增长。那中国作为一个14亿人口将近14亿人口的大国，它的一个快速发展，必然要显著的改变全球格局，从而对原来的美国居于一个支配地位的这样一个格局形成某种影响和改变，是可以理解的。我们平心而论，站在美国的角度是可以理解的。作为原来的这样一个 established power 一个领导者，他对这个事情他要做一个反应这个过程呢，实际上不是从现在开始刚才姚洋院长讲到，就我们国发院在过去的10年中每年年初和年终跟美国的学者有2次讨论我每一次都参加了。我记得在2011年的时候，我们当时的讨论，我回来写了一篇文章。我的感觉就美国正在朝野上下，就2011年9年前，都在讨论一个什么问题呢？需要重新评估对中国的政策。特别有意思那一次，我们见智库、见学者、见这个 business person， 然后到 DC 见各个政府的有关部门，大家不约而同都在问几个问题：我们原来对中国的一些基本判断还能够成立吗？你们可以看看我写的11年发表的一篇论文，其中第5个问题就是这么说的，就是说我们原来认为中国会遵守现行的国际秩序，并且发挥积极的作用，这个判断还成立吗？这个话跟我们是这么说的，我的翻译就是说呢，中国原来准备接受中国的领导发挥积极的作用，这个判断还成立吗？那么后来这样一个辩论，我认为这是新世纪美国对中国政策的第2次辩论，到第3次就15年提出了这个修昔底德陷阱，然后到16年这就刚才Professor 这个 Rojo 讲到的，就是说如果不是中美关系出现了变化，大概现在是 Clinton 在 White House 而不是 Trump所以这个就是我们讲的老大老二，就国内讲的这个问题老大，这是一个重大的问题，是一个长期的问题，但我想也是有解的问题。但这个问题呢，我想今天呢我不讨论这是第一个问题。第2个问题，我觉得最重要的是美国以及西方很多的国家如何认识中国的体制的一些特点，如何看待中国的体制演变中出现的一些新的一些情况，就用中国的话，就如何解读中国的故事。我觉得这个问题也是非常重要的问题。如果说第一个问题老大老二的问题仅仅限于是中美关系当然了，其他国家也会关心这个问题，但我觉得对中国这个政体制特点以及它未来走势的这个理解，我觉得可能不光是说中国和美国关系，同时也牵扯到就刚才建东讲的，建东教授讲的，就他的这个 mother-in-law， 包括他的 father， 可能都有这方面的一些疑问或者困惑。比如说我们都知道 WTO 改革，我知道后面马上这 Professor 涂就要讲 WTO 改革。WTO 改革一个非常重要的就是3边进程所以 trilateral 这个 process， 美国、日本、欧盟他们已经开了6次会了，他们讨论 WTO 改革的议程的焦点问题它都是针对中国的这样的一些结构性的体制性的问题，量身定做的，比301调查报告走得更远。欧盟去年 在跟中国打官司 DC516，他出的那个报告400多页，关于中国体制的扭曲，就这个 Mother in Law， 就你讲的，他出了这个题目啊，那他最后对中国的体制提出了一系列的质疑，这个质疑简单来说，我觉得是2方面，一个是失望啊，这就是我们去年年初18年年初，姚洋教授带队，然后我们到美国几个机构访问，你就感到这个东西从来没有过，我们搞了7、8年，那一直就感到美国整个是抱怨呐、委屈啊、这个失望呐、或者是质疑啊，就是这种感觉。他为什么失望呢？就 WTO 的时候入世的时候，美国可能对中国做了一个评估，认为中国的这个体制走势会怎么样啊？更多的可能会 converge 到一个跟西方的经济体制啊更加接近的这样一个过程。这个预期是有一定的道理的。你看过去的这个过程啊。第二个呢，就是责备。所谓责备，就是说中国的体制由于保留了非常多的一些不尽人意的一些特点，使得中国在跟美国以及其他国家的竞争中取得了巨大的 advantage 啊。就是说这样2种观点。我想呢，利用后边的大概5分钟时间，对这个问题做几点评论啊。第一点，我想说的是其实呢，中国的经济确实在过去的40年，特别是新世纪的10几年取得了巨大的成就。中国对美国的这个贸易的几千亿美元的顺差，这个在30年前是不可想象的但是我想，这个顺差背后是有它的原因的，它肯定不是主要的，因为中国经济的扭曲，恰恰是因为中国经济体制在改革开放方面取得的阶段性的成就和成功。比如说一个简单的事实就告诉我们，中国对美国的出口5000多亿，你看看这个它的不同企业的贡献的比例是变化的，但总体来讲大概60-70%可能就是由这个 Mr. Gibbers 他底下的，刚才告诉我有3000多上海的这个 membership， 主要的是美国企业，主要是外资企业创造的这个在04年我跟我的研究生就专门发表过这方面数据，其中另外20%几可能是私营企业创造的，另外可能有几个百分点是国营企业创造的。你从这一点就看得非常清楚，中国经济在国际舞台上表现出的巨大的竞争力，它不是因为中国经济仍然扭曲带来的而是因为中国的开放、改革、市场化机制激活了活力，包括让外国企业进来跟我们一起发展，取得了成功。所以我觉得这一点抱怨要改，但这个不是说中国体制没有问题，还有很多扭曲要改，我后面要说。第二点我想讲的是就是说这个失望就是说可能国外的朋友们觉得，就是中国体制没有像主要的发达国家这个体制逼近收敛。那我想讲呢，这样一个理解，我能理解外国朋友为什么这样想，但应该说这样一个抱怨这样一个失望呢，应该说跟中国经济体制本身演变的逻辑，它实际上是不一致的。那我们知道中国的体制改革，它实际上一开始就是在80年代，我们都知道这个中共13大就确立一个基本的命题，叫什么命题你们学政治课可能都知道中国特色的社会主义经济体制。你们去看看以后的每一次中共的党代会5年一次，一直到19大，每一次政治报告的主题都缺不了这个基本的命题。换一句话说，至少在中国的执政党或在中国的主流社会中，从来就没有把体制跟西方国家变成一样，看作是一个改革体制的目的。反过来，更多的思想跟外面不一样，他要强调特色。那你说这个话是不是没有人就认为应该跟国外不一样呢？当然也有，学界你比80年代我们讲要全盘西化，可能有一些人有这个观点，但是就中国历史演变的这个大逻辑来讲，这个不是这个问题。那换句话，如果外国朋友对这个问题有误解或者有失望，他需要调整这个东西，需要调整，重新读懂中国。我觉得这是第二点。第三点，我的评论就是什么呢？中国改革它主要的是从解决自身的问题、困难、矛盾来推进改革的。 这个非常重要。中国的改革成就非常巨大。你看看一开始改革最重要的2项措施，一个农业改革，还有一个特区改革，没有一项不是因为当时中国的经济面临的具体困难，农业吃不饱饭，甚至饿肚子。特区一个紧迫的问题就是说，大量的人往香港跑，你知道吗？并且中国广大的富裕劳动力得不到一个机会实现它的价值。而在香港可以转移进来的时候，转移它的富裕劳动这个产能进来的时候，这个就非常好。我专门看了第一家在东莞虎门接受香港那个太平手袋厂的这样一个案例，我跟他的当时的厂长做了交流，非常好的一件事情。所谓产品类分工、加工贸易、特区改革、吸引外资，非常好的解决中。当然，中国要改变自己过去的意识形态。然后，但是呢，有了初步的改革以后，因为改革它是要解决问题的，但问题呢是层出不穷的，老问题解决了又有新问题所以改革也在不断的推进。所以中国的改革没有 design， 它并没有一个蓝图说怎么改，但中国的改革它内在有一个逻辑，有一个 by default， 它改了这个问题，然后新问题出来了，它接着改下一个问题，下一个问题解决了又改下一个问题，所以一步一步的走到我们想回顾一下，到90年代末，朱镕基改革了国有体制。然后朱镕基和江泽民推进了 WTO， 所以中国的体制基本的架构建立起来了。所以中国的改革它完全是一个以自我的发展的需要，克服自身的困难和问题为本位的改革。我觉得这个是第3点解读，而不是说要 converge to 这个并不是在主观上要 converge to 这个向这个西方体制转移。但在这个改革的过程中，确实客观上中国选择了开放型的市场体制。在这个开放型市场体制下，有一些基本的体制原则，可能西方它就有了一个类似性，或者有某种趋同。我觉得应该这么看这个问题。最后一点，我想说的是，中国未来仍然需要以中国现代化发展作为根本的目的，以中国的发展为本位来改革这个问题。所以刚才有个同学就是说，这外国要我们改革，或者要我们怎么样怎么样。我觉得这个问题可能不能这么问。这么问没有正确的解答。外国要我们改，我们应该改还不应该改？应该改，我们听外国人的话来改，这个可能也不合适如果说因为外国人要我们改，我们是凡是敌人反对的，我们就要拥护，我们坚决不改，这个可能也不是一个好办法。最后的问题是什么？回答怎么呢？应该根据我们的发展的需要为本位，回到国内，先别考虑外面。那你考虑国内，马上我想但这个问题可能有争议。我个人想非常清楚，解决中国自己的2步走的目标，2个100年，一定要解决，无论是短期和长期的问题，没有机会详细展开讨论，有机会我们专门讨论。最重要的问题就是要在改革上走出新的路子，要有突破，并且这个突破要有系统性。比如说，我简单的讲几点，在经济上，国有企业的中心化改革。我们的华为是什么企业不是国有企业，做得这么好，给国家给这个在国际上有这么好的影响，为什么我们不可以给华为的这样一个法律上甚至宪法上的待遇，跟国有企业通过理论创新给一个类似的待遇呢？我觉得这个国有企业中心的改革非常重要。产业政策一定是必要的。中国的产业政策的成功，我觉得有一些经验可能需要国际世界借鉴，但是中国的产业政策需要精炼化，不需要。我最近正在研究生猪政策，中国的生猪政策就非常明显的显示，我们可能有一些公共品提供的作者没做到，产业政策做过了最后呢，刚才我看他们已经看表了，我马上就完1分钟然后呢，就是说，我觉得就包括这个就是说其他的理论创新一系列的改革，我觉得这样的一些改革，以中国为本位，这样的一些改革，它有助于激活中国经济发展的活力，更好的实现现代化目标。同时，客观上也怎么样呢？客观上有助于我们跟美国这个化解跟它的矛盾，特别是跟美国以外的发达国家、国际社会，它对我们的体制的一些误解或者体制上的一些矛盾，客观上找到一些共同点，这样更好的解决第一个问题，我讲的老大老二的问题我觉得可能这是一个不可回避的问题。所以概括而言解决中美关系或者争端出路问题，可能涉及到很多的问题。 老大老二，包括谈判的一些细节，怎么能找到一个具体突破的方法？包括我觉得这一次活动雷蒙的跟姚洋院长还有这个Professor Roger 他们 initiate 的这个办法，我觉得一个非常重要的创新，就是学界应该有一些建设性的、独立的分析所以我觉得这个NYU 上海做这件事，这样一些都是非常必要的。但我看在这里面不可缺少的一个条件，就是中国要以自身为本位，推进系统的改革突破，从而使这个僵局得到一个根本的化解，这是一个不可缺少的条件。在这个意义上说我想说大国的外交，它的本质永远是国内的政治。谢谢大家。
非常感谢姚老师邀请有机会来参加这个会议。我想我主要可能从 WTO 的角度来谈一下对这个相关问题看法。但我想首先说的一点呢，就是无论对中美关系还是WTO 的改革变化，其实我觉得我们现在最需要的是耐心我们需要等待时机。我们经常会看到这个都会说 WTO 很成功，尤其是1995年建立 WTO 的时候很成功，但实际上在95年之前，多边贸易体系正在面临很大的危机从这个70年代开始，包括80年代美日的这个关系，包括91年的时候当时关贸总协定谈判的这个崩溃，当时其实是面临很大的危机的。但是呢，因为91年之后这个世界格局的重大变化，冷战的这个结束，那么为这个多边体制的进步创造了一个很好的条件。所以有的时候我们就是得等待时机，没有办法这个当然不是说等待的过程中你什么都不需要做。那我觉得呢，主要应该是做2点，一个呢就是要控制冲突控制这个危机，不要使这个主要的大国之间产生太大的这个问题。那么第二一个呢，就是要渐进的制定一些规则，调整一些规则。那么从关贸总协定 WTO 的这个发展过程来看呢，一直都是这样做的。那么它一开始主要是扩展成员范围增加新的成员，然后呢逐步降低关税。那么到了东京回合，70年代东京回合的时候呢，制定了一部分的所谓的这个周边的协议，来对一些新的领域、新的问题制定局部性的规则。然后呢，到这个 WTO 成立的时候，扩展到多边。所以它是一个渐进的过程，我们不能指望一夜之间能够解决所有的这些问题，无论是中美的问题，还是 WTO 现在面临的这些问题。那么另外呢，有一些问题呢，说实话，随着时间呢，也是自己会发生一些变化。比如说今天美国的专家反复谈到的这个补贴的问题、产业政策的问题。我曾经跟一个日本的朋友交流，他就是说，像日本在这个20世纪90年代的时候，补贴还是个大问题这个包括美国的压力也很大，日本国内的问题也很大。但是进入21世纪以后，这个问题基本上消失了。为什么呢？因为日本政府没钱补贴了所以有的事情其实你是无法预料的第二一个呢，其实我是非常同意这个 Roger 教授的这个观点就是关于这个所谓超级全球化的问题。那么现在的全球化呢，确实是不断的从这个所谓的边境措施向边境后措施渗透从这个关税非关税壁垒进入到很多的国内的产业政策甚至环境劳工等等这些问题。我个人觉得呢，当然中美之间也经常谈到这个所谓的结构性问题体制性问题等等。我个人觉得呢，对这些问题呢，应该说要采取更加谨慎的态度，需要更多的研究很多问题其实制定这个国际规则也好，它最后产生的影响也好，我们其实是不确定的那我们可以看到在这些问题上进步最快的，我们知道一体化程度最高的就是欧盟了。但是我们可以看到最近发生了什么，对吧？英国要脱欧那么这个在这个过程中，我想刚才讲到的这个欧盟一体化过程中对国内制度的很多的设计实际上它所产生的后果对这个政治的社会的影响其实是有一些误判的或者说大家过分的乐观的去看待这些一体化带来的利益，而没有关注它的这些问题。所以呢，我刚才讲的也是我刚才讲到的这种渐进的推进一体化，而不是过度追求这个速度。那么从这个谈判的角度来说，或者国际规则的角度来说呢，其实咱们这个报告里也专门谈到了，就是我们要识别那些负面外溢效应最显著的问题这个确实是一个问题，因为国内政策会产生外溢效应，这也是肯定的。但是我们要去精确的识别然后再采取相应的这种国际规则、国际谈判的形式来约束它。那么第三一个呢，就是现在的这个 WTO 谈判呢， 确实面临很大的这个问题。从2001年多哈会合启动到现在一直没有结束，原因当然是多方面的，但我个人觉得呢，可能最重要的一个还是说，这个涉及到的问题太多了，大家彼此之间要形成一个利益的均衡，这个点非常难找，非常难以寻找。所以我自己的一个小建议呢是说，当然现在还有一种模式，就是所谓的叫诸边谈判，就是针对个别议题的，就一个议题，比如说电子商务就谈一个协议，然后这个渔业补贴就谈一个协议。那这种方式呢有它的好处，但是呢也有它的弊端，就是说在一个议题上，彼此之间的这个利益平衡有的时候也很难找到，因为有的时候可能在一个议题上，有些国家就完全是进攻性利益，有的国家完全是防守性利益，那么大家都会很难找到这个 trade off。但是呢，我自己的建议说是不是可以搞结对子谈判，就是说两个议题捆绑起来谈，但是呢也不是很多，比如说现在这个美国对中国的这个中国制造2025批评很多，包括中国的产业政策，但其实这个中国制造2025至少有一定程度上，是因为美国包括它的盟友对中国这种极其严格的高新技术的出口控制，我们知道也有个什么瓦森纳协定等等那没有办法，对吧？我们买不来，我们从市场上获得不了，那我只能自己开发，这也不能怪我，对吧？这是有它的一个内在的需求的。所以我比如说，我们如果要设计这个规则谈判的时候，当然我们可以讨论补贴问题，高新技术包括研发的补贴产业政策都可以讨论，但是相应的一个问题，是不是你应该去讨论如何来放松，或者说设计一个更加合理的技术出口管制的体系国际规则，让这种技术的流动更加的顺畅不然呢只能是一个相互割裂，或者说靠这个自我发展。那么第四一个呢，那么美国现在对 WTO 的态度呢，我个人的看法呢是革命性的、颠覆性或者说是一种他自己号称叫破坏性建设但是呢目前来看呢，只搞破坏没搞建设那么从这个方式来看呢，我自己觉得从美国的角度来说，确实也没有什么好处。当然刚才 Roger 教授也专门谈到，就是说特朗普政府并不代表美国并不能完全代表美国。实际上美国国内也有很多人主张还是要利用这个多边规则。那其实从中国的角度来说，我个人觉得利用多边机制对中国其实是最有效的因为中国是很在意国际形象的特朗普不太在意，我们是很在意的所以呢，其实利用多边规则来约束中国，或者说调整中国的一些行为，其实是有它的效果的，包括补贴的问题那补贴呢，当然各位其实都谈到了这个其实有它的一定的普遍性但是呢，补贴确实我们可以对它制定更好的规则包括刚才像那个 Meredith 谈到的这个可以对补贴做一些更细致的分类因为现在的补贴分类呢，确实相对来说比较粗略。那么对这个补贴的救济措施呢，效果或者是效率比较低这确实是存在这个问题那我们可以对这个补贴规则进行重新谈判来把这个补贴的这个规则制定得更严，把反补贴的规则相应的放松，那么这样就可以形成一个适当的平衡那么其实对这些问题我们其实也是开放的，包括反倾销规则，我个人觉得现在的 WTO 的反倾销规则有点过严了有点过严了因为事实上美国其实或者说几乎所有国家在 WTO 里面背诉，比如说我使用反倾销以后在 WTO 里面背诉的话，几乎都败诉了，这说明这个规则是有问题的，对吧？你这个法律上说允许我反倾销，但是到法院的时候永远说我输，这我怎么做呢，是吧？所以这里面还是有一些问题的当然美国但是也一样，我刚才讲捆绑起来一个问题，就是说美国现在对这个所谓的非市场经济这个做法，这个价格比较方法的这个使用的问题，那么美国包括欧盟不愿意放弃，那我觉得这个呢并不是一个聪明的策略因为对我们来说一样，这个问题其实更重要的是一个形象、面子这个尊严的问题那么其实对美国来说、欧盟来说，放弃这个非市场经济做法，其实对它使用反倾销没有太大影响那我刚才讲的，比如说如果说通过一个规则的调整的话，可以说美国放弃非市场经济这个所谓的计算方法，但是我们可以让反倾销更加容易这样也可以形成一个平衡。当然这个容易意味着所有人都容易，所以这也是一种公平的规则那么最后呢，我就想对中美之间的关系我简单谈一点看法 我们今天谈到了这个 convergence 或 decoupling 了，要选择哈。那我们的这个报告的建议就是说是应该一个第三选择。那我个人觉得这个第三选择可能就是 partial convergence, partial decoupling 哈。怎么说呢？或者说这个中美两国应该是相互学习，相向而行啊。确实没有人是完美的，都不要太自信啊。当然我们搞了好多自信是吧？这个但是呢，其实都不要太自信，这个自己多多少少都会有些问题，对吧？那么包括这个我们讲经济学里面的这个，比如说政府和市场的关系，其实也是一样的，对吧？它其实都是要找到一个平衡点，你不能光说市场好，或者说光说政府好。那么对中美两国来说，其实也是一样的。美国可能觉得天天说美国的体制最好，那中国说我们的体制是完美的，其实这都不科学，对吧？所以我们应该是找到一个，或者从某种程度上来说，我刚才讲的相向而行，最后还是 convergence，啊，但是呢，可能不是完全的由一方的模式来这个涵盖，或者说来取代另一方的模式，啊，我觉得当然我也非常同意刚才居老师谈到的这个所谓的这个竞争性共存的问题，啊，所以中美之间肯定最后还是必须找到一个和平共处的方式啊！这个时代没有谁能消灭谁啊！我就简单谈这些干嘛？谢谢。
Great, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity, Professor Lehman and New York University. Really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you this morning. It's a fascinating conversation. Also, thank you very much, Professor Ju, for this marital advice. I've been wondering about that, what the secret is to marital harmony. Obviously, I'm not spending enough time with my mother-in-law. I'm very much outnumbered here. I guess I'm the only business person from a group of academics. However, it actually feels a little bit like I'm coming home because I grew up in a household of my family's are academic family. Both my mother and father are academic. So I grew up on university campuses. Most of them not as nice as this one, by the way. You've got a really nice school here, and it is somebody referenced that this is a combination of the best of both worlds, the United States and New York anyway, and China. So that is great. You might be wondering what subject my parents speak, and this is relevant actually to today's discussion. Both my parents are sinologists, so they teach Chinese. And you're wondering, how did that come about? Well, my mother is from China, so 我是一半的中国人，一半的西方人。不过我们刚这个活动之前，我们做了一个决定教授会讲中文，我中文水平不够高，所以我用英文讲，不然的话你们会觉得太累。But this is an important point because when I graduated from college, my mother insisted that I come to China. She wanted me to meet her family and understand the culture from which she came. And so I met my mother's older sister and my cousins, all of whom had been through the Cultural Revolution and grew up here in China. And the first thing my aunt says to me, she says, 凯文, 因为她叫我凯文, she uses my Chinese name. 假如美国跟中国打仗的话，你要谁赢呢? And remember, I'm just a kid, right? I mean, I'm right out of college. What am I going to do with that? And so I said to her, I said, look, if your mother and your father get in a fight, who do you want to win? Or do you just want the fight to be over? Right? So that's where we are right now. We're in a fight. Nobody's going to win this. Nobody's going to win. We're in a situation right now where both are definitely losing, and that's a problem. I actually agree with the very first question of this whole program was about the Ms. Xie, right, from Hunan, and we were talking about the win-win situation. Aren't we better together? Don't we create more value? And that is very true. And so I guess my role, I'm just going to make a couple of quick points, and because I'm actually much more interested in the questions. You guys have been asking excellent questions. And I'll correct a couple of misperceptions. The look back, a lot of things that are being said by the administration about the failure of policy. This has not been a failure for the United States. There have been issues for sure. It has created an employment disruption within the United States, joining the WTO. But as far as the business community here in China is concerned, this has been actually quite a successful project. We represent 3,000 companies here in China, and the overwhelming majority of them are very successful. With that said, it has become an unbalanced relationship, and I'll talk about that in a couple of points. I want to respond to a couple of things, and I've been in listening mode here, actually listening to the academics and making notes and making observations. So I've been really very much in listening mode, and I appreciate the comments by Professor Yao, actually, who began the program and talked about China as a developing country. This is very interesting for me. He's right about, and it's interesting to me to listen to economists about development and these kinds of issues. And I think those are highly relevant to both China and the United States. And here's the point, is that I talk to local Chinese government officials all the time, almost every day. And this is the point that comes up, is China as a developing country. And we talk about it, and I've become quite good friends with some of the government officials at the provincial and municipal level. And they lean across to me and they say, Kaiwen. So they say, Kerr, your problem is you don't understand China. You spend too much time in Shanghai, and you don't understand that China is a developing country. You need to spend more time outside of Shanghai and go into the countryside. To which I say, I lean back across the table and I say, your problem is when you go to the United States, you're spending too much time in San Francisco and in New York. Come to Alabama, come to parts of Pennsylvania, I'll show you that the United States is also a developing country. And this is the point. This is the main point, is that both countries have their issues. The WTO has been very disruptive. And I think Professor Roddick's answer to that, I think, was excellent. It was talking about the imbalanced effect that the United States has experienced as a result of China's entering the WTO. So a couple of things that I'll point to. The American business community is very uncomfortable with the current situation, but we do fundamentally support a rebalancing of this relationship. And frankly, when you look at it, it's grown so fast over the last 35 years. It would be amazing if it did not require rebalancing at this point, just because of the volume and growth. But here is the point, is beyond the discussion about developing countries, but it comes back to the Made in 2025, Made in China 2025 goals. The business community looks at it and we say, yeah, that's actually a good plan. There is a recognition at this point, and I think it's a healthy recognition. A lot of the discussions earlier were talking about how the United States had this expectation that China was going to become basically another United States. To our credit, I think that there's an acknowledgement now, both in Washington, D.C. and in the business community, that is not the plan. That's not the case. And I think that's a healthy thing, to acknowledge that and understand it. But it does have to be a rebalancing, and both sides have to understand the needs of the other side. And this is the main point. Let me give you just a couple of examples, and this goes back to the WTO and the commitments that China made around opening up, especially in the financial services sector. And we look at it, and Does anybody know what the collective market share of all the foreign banks and insurance companies would be here in China? Anybody have a wild guess as to what that number might be? It's less than 2%. Insurance companies is about 1.6%. The market share of AIG alone in Japan, 6%. So there's a problem there. And I look at that because, again, back to this question about China as a developing country. And look, if China were Zimbabwe, then you get it, right? You want to limit the power that these global banks have in a country that is truly a developing country. Look at China. Is Bank of China in some kind of danger from Citibank? Is ICBC threatened by Bank of America? Really? China is not Zimbabwe. Yes, it's a developing country. It has developing issues, just like the United States does as well. But there's no threat here. There's no reason why foreign banks shouldn't be given more latitude in this country. And I'll give you one more example, and then I'll finish. Why is that so important? Is looking at the lack of reciprocity here. You look at China UnionPay, the dominant credit card clearing system. They enjoy open access to global markets, especially in the United States, and that's a good thing. The American business community absolutely supports that. That's a good thing for consumers. It's a good thing for Chinese tourists, obviously, but it's a good thing for both economies. Why is it that Visa and MasterCard can't operate renminbi?
It's all in the process.
And it has been for the last 2 decades. It's in the process, and it has been for the last 2 decades since China joined WTO. So my advice to China is we've got to figure this out. I mean, the American business community is absolutely committed to a non-decoupling strategy. I think we'll get into this in the discussion about what parts of this relationship do need to decouple and which ones shouldn't. We're committed to having a relationship with China, but we respectfully advise our friends in China and our friends among the Chinese government to respect the WTO commitments. There is this thing out there we call promise fatigue, where China has committed to doing certain actions and hasn't executed those. And so that's the issue. That's a real problem. But having said that, I do believe that both sides are committed to reconstructing this relationship. We can talk more about that. I'm gonna just wrap up so we can get to the conversation. But the American Chamber goes to Washington, D.C. every year. And actually, Professor Lehman mentioned all the various hats that he wears. He also has another role, which is an active member of the American Chamber of Commerce. And he actually came with us to Washington, D.C. this year. It was a fascinating series of conversations that we can get into in the Q&A. But we met with probably about 50 congressmen and senators. And I'm going to bring you good news, and I'm going to end on that note. Is that part of what we heard? We met with both the administration, with people in the White House, State Department. We also met with people on Capitol Hill. What I heard was a solid commitment to reconstructing this relationship. We did not hear a lot of discussion about decoupling or China's the enemy, or we need to get companies out of China. That's not what we heard. We heard that the United States is absolutely committed to this relationship, but also taking a very deliberate approach towards changing the relationship and making it a more balanced and mutually beneficial relationship going forward. So and there again, thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk to you today. Thank you.
Okay, so thank all the 5 panelists here. So it's time to draw a conclusion of this morning's forum. So let me turn the podium to Professor Lehman to say a few final words.
So my final words will be words of thanks. I'd like to begin by thanking the Peking University National School of Development for co-sponsoring this morning's activities with NYU Shanghai. I'd like to thank Yang and Danny, the co-conveners, for spending the last 5 months on this incredible project, drawing the working group together and producing the way forward together. I'd like to thank the other members of the working group, those who are able to be here today, including those who flew all the way from the UK and the US to be here, as well as those who came from Beijing, for all of your work. And also I want to thank the members of the working group who weren't able to come today, but whose names you will see in your booklet. It was an incredibly gratifying project to work on together. This proposal, I think, will not be the end of our working group's activities. I think our meeting yesterday concluded that. I'd like to thank the other panelists who joined us today from outside the working group. Your contributions added enormously to the quality of the insights that we all received today. I'd like to thank the NYU Shanghai administrative team who have worked tirelessly over the last month to prepare for today's activities and to enable things to operate in such a smooth, flawless, and almost invisible manner. You're not invisible, and we very, very much appreciate all of your hard work. Finally, I'd like to thank all of you in the audience who packed the room today, who stayed with us for 3 hours of very intense and serious conversation. Your questions were fantastic, and your attention was fantastic. As I said earlier today, NYU Shanghai was created to be a bridge between the US and China in the world of higher education, and we celebrate the opportunity to bring together multinational, multicultural groups to talk about hard questions, to talk about serious questions, and to plan a way forward. Thank you for joining us today.